everybody, welcome back to another episode of Boss Up with Adele Chow. And today I have a very, very special guest. Before I officially introduce him, I want to tell you how I met him. So I met him in a investment finance kind of event, and I was really, really intrigued with what he do. So everybody, before you put your hands together, he's actually the country tax leader of YYC, and he's also the co-founder of TaxPod. Put your hands together for Zen Chow.
Hi, Adele. Thanks for inviting me.
We have the same surname.
Yes, we definitely share the same surname.
I don't really find someone with the same surname pretty often. Yeah, and same spelling, right?
Yes.
CHOW.
Yes, exactly.
So everybody, Adele Chow and Zen Chow.
Yes, hi.
Okay, I think maybe Zen, for our audience today, a very quick introduction about who you are, what you do, or maybe like a fun fact about yourself.
All right. I think just now you have already introduced that I'm the country tax leader of YYC Group. I'm also the co-founder of TaxPod. TaxPod is the online tax education platform. But a little bit more background about myself is that I'm also a licensed tax agent. You know, always heard people saying that, oh, this is a licensed tax agent, yeah, because I have the tax agent license given by the Ministry of Finance. But maybe one fun fact that, you know, I always, whenever I introduce myself as, you know, a tax director, the country tax leader of my company, YYC, people would say that you don't look like the director.
I was about to say,
you know, people
you
would
look
say
very,
that.
very young.
Exactly. So that's, I mean, before they say I'm young, what they would say is that you don't look like a director. And I say, why? They say, no. Please don't get misunderstood. That's because you look too young, you know, because director, you know,
look
usually
very like a college student.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
Pushing it already.
I think that as a compliment. Yeah. So you see, people usually say directors, you know, have a lot of white hair. Do you see any white hair right now? No, right?
I got white hair.
they say usually directors, right? You're seeing the hair becoming bald, the head is becoming bald, right? But I still have like flourish hair over here. Okay, that joke aside. But yeah, I'm actually not young, even though you say I look young, because I'm in this industry for more than 20 years right now. This is my 21st year, in fact. Yeah.
Wow.
So I've been doing taxation ever since I graduated from university, and that's the only thing I do. Seriously, people ask me, have I done accounting? Have I done audit? No, not at all. For 20 over years, yes, I've been only doing tax.
Oh my!
Yes.
I mean, this is not really in the question here, but just curious, were you always so certain that I want to be the best at tax? Like, because a lot of people nowadays is like, I don't know what I want, you know, I want this, I want that, I want it, and then like the world is spoiling us with so many different choices. But it's very fascinating, right? To, you know, immediately after graduated, you just knew tax, not even account, not even finance, right? Were you always so certain that tax is the thing that you want
To be really honest, absolutely no. No, definitely not. Yeah. I mean, I can be very honest with all of you today. Yeah. My ambition last time when I was young is to be a radio DJ.
Wow.
Yes.
You speak very well.
I always wanted to be a radio DJ.
Now you are on the DJ show.
Yeah, so because I like to speak, I like to share, I like to speak. So I've always wanted to be a radio DJ. But yeah, my dad has an accounting firm. So my dad always has the vision of me taking over the firm. So can't help it lah, you know. So I started, you know, doing tax. I started learning accounting. Of course, I have no objection lah. I mean, I don't hate accounting. I don't hate tax. I like numbers. In fact, I like numbers very much. So that's how I, you know, started off with doing tax. And, you know, the more I do tax, the more I find that, hey, tax is becoming very interesting because you get to play around with the law, the tax law. You got to play around with numbers. And most importantly, tax is about money.
Yeah.
You know, if you know how to do proper tax planning, you save money for your client.
Yeah. So maybe in short, right, what is taxation in Malaysia about?
Tax in Malaysia means you earn money, you pay a part of what you earn to the government, which is what a lot of people don't like, honestly. But well, that's the responsibility as a citizen of Malaysia. You know, country needs money to develop, you know, to run the day-to-day operations. So yeah, so basically, tax is really about that. You know, you earn money; it's not all yours. You know, you don't take all the money. Part of it has to be given to the country, and in the end, it's probably for your own good as well, right?
Yeah. Tell us a bit about, I mean, we go back a bit. Personally, I know because we met in an event and you shared a little bit about how you are doing TaxPod right now, being the co-founder, and clearly, you know, your t-shirt, right, YYC Group and TaxPod. But how did you take over your dad's company? And obviously now the Hue merch and all with the whole YYC group with
yeah. Okay, like I want to say...
C-Town, right? Yeah.
Yes, it was invested by C-Town, yes.
Yeah. Maybe you can share just a little bit so like
Okay.
our audience would know like your background before we start diving into it.
Understand. So like I was saying, after I graduated, I actually started helping my dad, in his firm, doing the standard tax compliance kind of things, like what a lot of tax practitioners would be doing today. Of course, I did, go out, work with some other firms, get more experience. But when I went back to my dad's firm and I took over the firm, I found this opportunity. I got approached by YYC Group, which is a much larger accounting firm as compared to ours, a small firm. And we found the opportunity of merging into their firm so that we can grow even faster, bigger. So, we made the decision and say, yes, let's merge. So, we merged all our business into YYC. I merged myself into YYC and became their tax director. But that's still doing all the, I would say, boring tax compliance kind of stuff. Until one day, it was all because of MCO. Yeah, because of COVID, because of MCO. I was doing a lot of trainings. I was doing a lot of talks, seminars, workshops, physically. But we couldn't do that at all, during MCO. So then we thought, what can we do? What else can we do to continue teaching people, training people? And that's when we say, why don't we do all the online stuff? But online webinar, it's on an ad hoc basis. Yeah. So why don't we say, let's do a buffet basis. Like you subscribe to something, you get to attend to all the webinars, all the contents, unlimited times. Yeah, so that's how we had this idea, and I started recording a lot of videos, short videos, and I upload all of them into TaxPod. And whenever we do webinars, all the TaxPod users or TaxPod subscribers get to attend to all these webinars at no extra cost as long as you are a subscriber. So that's how we started TaxPod, and it became a very successful platform now.
And you are still running the whole country leader for YYC.
Yes.
So technically you're running like two hats.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, but I think I would just dive straight to it. Like everybody, I just want you to know, Zen is really the guy when it comes to like tax, And I think I'm going to be very honest. Like I started 7 Vault 10 years ago, and I started the business as a creator, as a blogger, as an influencer. I didn't study tax. Who teach you? Like to be very honest,
Yep.
The school doesn't teach you
because it's a very specific topic. It's a very niche topic.
Exactly. But the thing is, oh my gosh, guys, like as a business owner, the number one thing we talk about PBT and PAT, which is profit before tax and profit after tax. And that is the number one. I wouldn't say the biggest number, but if you want to go listed, you're talking about your BESA. The biggest benchmark people talk about is your PAT.
That's right.
And if you are not careful as a business owner, the 漏洞, like the money is like spilling through holes, that's my opinion. That's why today, really, I'm coming from a place of, I just want to ask you, why do you think most Malaysians avoid talking about tax? And I would really love to hear from you from two perspectives. One is individual employees, one is entrepreneur or business owners.
Okay.
I'm sure you have a lot of stories, but maybe straight up, why do you think why do you think Malaysians avoid talking about tax?
Because it's about paying money. Yeah, very, very simple. Like what I was saying, right? If I were to explain what is tax in a very simple way, is that you earn money, but it's not all yours. You have to give one part of what you earn to another person, to the country, to the government. And that's what a lot of people do not like, honestly. So people don't want to talk about tax because they know that if they talk too much about tax and if they know too much about what they have to pay, they will earn less. They will earn less, right?
If I cannot see, I don't talk about it. I act like I tak tahu lah, right? Oh,
Exactly. So to a lot of business owners, honestly, a lot of business owners would want to save tax as much as possible. If possible, they want to keep all the money they earn with them. Not even giving a cent to the government, but cannot lie.
Okay, Chop. Okay, this is just tell us, tell us the benchmark. I know the highest is 24%. Maybe just give our audience a very quick rundown. What is the tax paying bracket like for entrepreneurs and employees?
Okay, if you run a company, let's say you run a Sendran Berhad, the default tax rate for a company is 24%. That's the usual tax rate. But of course, if you run a small medium company, of course there's some criteria to become a small medium company, which I don't want to go too in depth. Yeah. But if you qualify to become a small medium
19,
company,
right?
No, you pay only 15% for the first 150,000. Then the next 450,000 income, you pay 17%. 15, then 17.
Then 19,
and
right?
after that is 24. Straight away
Really
24.
死咯你睇 run
And-
咗 7 for 10 years also I don't remember. I only remember 24
Yes.
because I always count my 24.
Because you earn too much. Because you earn too much. Or you are not an SMC anymore.
100,000 I earn, 24K goes to the government. Okay, anyway, right?
Okay, yep,
Correct,
yep.
right? So every 1 million a company earn, 240,000 goes to the government.
That's the standard tax rate for a company.
Yeah.
But that's talking about Sandran Berhad, yeah. But as an individual,
Yeah, tell us
it's
our
not
creative
just
friends or
it's
you
not
know,
just
side
24, yeah.
hustle.
It's not just 24. Of course, the
28.
lowest tax rate can be 0, but 0 is for those that really earn very, very minimal. Highest tax rate for an individual is 30%. 30.
Yeah.
30. That means it's roughly 1/3,
Yeah.
Roughly 1/3 of your income
income.
has to go to the government. So as an individual. So that's why, coming to why individuals also do not want to talk about tax, because they feel the pain, every time when they talk about tax, wow, 1/3 of my money goes to the government. And of course, some of us may complain, I know what's the government doing, to us, why should I
Yeah.
give 1/3 of my income to the government? But that's something you need to pay.
Yeah, so what do you think Malaysians' biggest misconception is about tax?
I would still say the misconception here is that they can only think about people taking their money away. The
It's a
government is
mindset
taking,
thing, yeah.
it's a mindset thing. People think that my money, my hard-earned money, why is it not 100% belonging to me? Why must I give part of it to the government? But the fact is that honestly, if you look at the roads, the hospitals, this money
Yeah.
come from taxpayers. If we don't contribute to the country, so how can the country develop all this? So
Yeah.
that's the change of mindset that we should have, And I always say that you should be proud. You should be
You're
proud
paying taxes.
that you're paying taxes.
Which means you're earning.
Yes, exactly.
So in your opinion, right? At what point do you think people should take paying their taxes seriously?
Whenever you start earning money.
How much?
Okay, honestly,
Give us the benchmark.
Now, of course, now, the individual, as an individual, all right, the lowest income, right, or I would say, the minimum income that you should earn before you start paying taxes, you earn 4,000 ringgit a month, right, as an employee, with EPF and things like that, yeah. So if you earn more than 4,000 a month, then obviously you will start paying tax.
How much is that
Even-
percentage? Just let us. Of course I know. Do you remember?
I don't really recall, but
It's okay. We will
even
find that and we will paste it here.
but even if it's more than 4,000, like slightly more than
Yep.
4,000, you in the end you only pay like a few hundred, 200 ringgit of tax every year. I mean that's very, very minimal. Yeah, because you're at a very low tax bracket.
But this is
okay?
more like employee lah, right?
Yes, as an
what
employee.
about side hustle gigs?
Okay, now if you run this gig,
this
if
is
you're a
really-
gig worker, let's say you're a gig worker, but you're running as an individual, it goes back to individual. So
Okay.
it all goes back to the same amount where, just now I was saying 4,000 a month, right? That's roughly 48,000 a year, right? But that's with EPF, that's
Yep,
with EPF.
yep.
So if we take away the EPF effect, which is 11%, the net income you're earning is roughly 3,000 plus, right? So you can roughly know that it's 37,000 plus, if I'm not wrong. 37,000 over ringgit. If you earn more than 37,000 ringgit a year, then
You have to pay
then you have to
already
start
lah.
paying tax
Yeah.
as a business owner, as a gig
and
worker.
this is a big one. I run a business and I clearly know. I want to say I pay my taxes until I heart pain lah. But I know there are people that sometimes even advise me, to do creative tax. And I'm a Christian, so in the Bible we say cannot run tax fund. Yeah, so obviously, what's your take on that?
Okay. we can-
Creative tax and
Yep.
and I want you to maybe break it down to two direction. Maybe one is obviously maybe the smaller business owners, probably per year less than 500,000 or even 1 million. And the second one is probably above 5-10 million lah. What's your take on that?
Now, I always say this, we can always do tax planning. Tax planning is okay, but we should not and definitely cannot do tax evasion or tax avoidance.
I mean, it's illegal.
Cannot.
To
Illegal.
begin with. Right?
Definitely illegal. So I'm gonna talk about those who evade tax, those who know that they are earning money, know that they should pay tax, but they don't actually pay at all. Now, of course, they may think that okay, that means I'm earning more because I don't pay part of my income to the government, but there will be a lot of consequences that would come after that.
I am sure
Seriously.
you're very close with the LHDN.
Not really, but we have to deal with LGN a lot of times from time to
I
time.
want to ask all the juicy story, okay? But you go on first.
Okay, but there will be a lot of consequences coming if you don't declare your tax properly. Because you see, whatever you declare, right, in your income tax form, it's a record. It's a record with the government.
Yep.
So you see, in the eyes of the government, they will not know how much you earn, right, if you don't tell them. So you have to tell them how much you earn, then there's a record. And this record, why is it so useful? It's for you to buy assets.
Yep.
So, a lot of people say, hey, I have money, so I want to start buying cars,
Yes.
luxury cars, big houses. But if you don't have a proper record with the government, and you start doing that,
And
you
the bank
start...
won't approve, yeah.
Of course, bank not approving is one thing, right? But who knows? I don't even need a bank loan. I just buy cash. Some people may do that. If you have been earning money, you don't pay tax. You have all your money. So I just use cash and buy lah. But the problem here is whenever you buy all these assets, the government will know. They will find out, and they will come after you. And by the time when they come after you, and you start explaining, oh, I do not know. I forgot. I do not know that I have to pay tax. Nope. There's no even
No
saying
negotiation.
no negotiation. Even you say sorry, you do know. Nope, that won't help at all. You have to pay back all your taxes with a penalty, and the penalty can be as high as 100%. Yeah, 100% means double. It means you pay. Let's say you have to pay 100,000 tax, another 100,000 penalty. That means you have to pay 200,000 instead of 100,000. So that's some really bad consequences. I would say if you don't.
Yeah, can you share with us one of the worst consequences stories that you have ever heard about people
There are a lot.
evading? I'm sure there are a lot. Maybe just one that you think that is shareable.
Okay, maybe I'll just take. Okay, there is this property developer. I'll just take this property developer example, right? I don't know whether this property developer was telling me, the truth or not, but he was saying that he didn't know. He didn't know that it's supposed to be declared this way. He didn't know that it's supposed to be done that way. But when we discovered all the wrongdoing, we said that you certainly has done it wrongly, and of course, the Inland Revenue Board has discovered it earlier than us, right? It was because they got audited by the Inland Revenue Board and they got into trouble, they came to us. But you know what? When the Inland Revenue Board went to them, they were taxed plus penalty 7 over million ringgit. Just, because he didn't know. Just because he didn't know what to do, he said he didn't know what to do. So he has to pay 7 million over ringgit just for tax and penalty. Of course, we went in and helped, we helped him to negotiate with the Inland Revenue Board, help him to rectify some errors. We managed to bring it down, to, was it 4 million? Yeah, about 4 million.
How do you do that?
Of course, that is when you have to get a professional to do.
Okay.
That's when you have to engage a professional, all right?
I completely agree, yeah.
Okay, but in the end, it's still 4 million. If he has done it
properly,
he didn't actually have to pay all this. He can actually. I mean, he has to pay some taxes, but
it
not 4 million.
It wouldn't be 4 million.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I always say tax planning is something we can do, but definitely not avoidance, not evasion at all.
So. That is obviously a very big group, right? So let's switch gear a little bit and talk about maybe individual, because I work in content industry, influencer industry. I don't know, what's your take about influencers and paying taxes?
You want me to talk about the bad things or the good things?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, this is our first time really sitting down and sharing about podcasts, and we literally just met one time. This is our second time meeting. But I really am just curious. We are from different worlds, right?
Okay.
What's your perception towards influencers? Because do you know how much they make?
Some yes, some no, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, but okay.
So what's your perception towards influencers and the money they make? Maybe we start from there.
Okay. Of course, my honest perception about influencers is that I think a lot of influencers are those who want to be a celebrity, but they probably didn't have a proper opportunity, so they started off by becoming an influencer with the view of who knows, one day I'll be famous, I'll be a celebrity. I mean that's my perception. But about how much they earn, I really think they earn a lot. I
tell you.
I really think they are earning
Off the
a
camera,
lot.
they are earning a lot.
I really think they're earning because the thing is that because they do all sorts of things, and they got a lot of sponsors, a lot of big brands, a lot of big companies are really paying them to do what they are doing. Okay, but the problem here is I also think that a lot of influencers are not declaring their income correctly. Yeah, because to a lot of, I mean, to some of the influencers that I've spoken to, they always ask me this: how would the government know? How would the government know that I'm earning this much?
They are coming after already, yeah.
But yes, they are. Because they, a lot of influencers
Thanks to
would be...
Syed Shadiq and Bella Astila.
You want to mention names?
No, they're so famous. They just got tunang one. All right.
Okay.
I mean, anyway, go on.
Okay, all right. So,
Of course, Sharing Kata is declaring 6 juta for Moa. The 6 juta is obviously, you know, right? Do you know about this? Like,
I don't know about the 6 juta.
Okay, never mind. We can talk about this. You surely know Syed
I
and
know
Bella
they are
Sela.
getting married lah.
Yeah, but you do know in his content, he talked about, I successfully raised 6 million for the people in Moa. But how did he raise 6 million? Is from brand endorsement.
Oh.
That's why in our industry, right, we laugh about it because not everybody knows how much people make. Thanks to him. Anyway, okay, go on.
Okay. So you see, I was speaking to some of the influencers and they were telling me, how would the government know that I'm earning so much, for becoming an influencer? Because they said I'm not working formally with a company, there is no record, in the government that how much the employer is paying me because they have no employers, but, they are self-employed, so-called self-employed. So they always thought that no one would know. But the fact is that the government knows, seriously. The government has their intelligence team. They have their intelligence team to actually monitor what's happening in the social media platform. Yes. I mean, you believe it or not, they actually have a team that actually goes online. They go watch, all these influencers sharing live, and they are actually picking some of the influencers whom they think this person should be earning a lot, and why is he or she not reporting the correct income, right? Like what they expect he or she should be earning, and they go after this person. So that's what the Inland Revenue Board is actually really doing. So yeah. So influencers, yes, you should be reporting your income.
Yeah, I 100% agree because I have some conversations with my influencer friends or even content creators. Like I always tell them, you got to definitely pay your taxes. Why? Because I pay my taxes and I declare. Those are my costs. So it is not true that the government will not know how much you make, because if they trace back your bank balance, your income is banked in by 7 Vault, then they will come to 7 Vault and they will literally already know how much you make, right? And I think, so what do you think are some of the things that we think that is not a problem or even illegal, but people think is fine?
Okay, remember just now I was saying...
Yeah, what is something people think is legal but actually isn't?
Remember just now I was saying tax planning is okay, tax avoidance is not okay. But a lot of people thought that tax avoidance is okay. They say, hey, only evasion is not okay. What? They say evasion is illegal, but I thought avoiding tax is okay. No, avoiding tax is not okay as well. So, no, you may ask, what's the difference between evasion and avoiding tax? Now, evasion means this amount of money you earn is taxable, but you clearly do not want to pay tax. That's evasion. But avoidance is that you try to do something with the intention of skipping or avoiding paying tax. That means you make decision not because this decision is the best for the business, this decision is the best for some other commercial reason, but it's just best because you don't have to pay tax if you make such decision. A lot of businessmen, they will do different types of business decision where they think, okay, if I do this, I don't have to pay tax, so this is what I will do.
For example?
Okay, let me just think of one example. Yeah.
Is it like buying a car?
No, buying a car is not really
Okay.
It's not really tax avoidance. Okay.
Buying a fancy car lah.
No lah.
Also
No. Buying fancy car would not avoid tax. Yeah, because you don't save.
I know they have the thing. I remember because my tax agent told me that.
Yeah. You don't save a lot of tax. So it's more like okay. Like, all of a sudden I couldn't think of an example.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, but I mean, what I wanted to say over here is that whatever decision you make, especially if you're a business owner, it has to come with a commercial reason. It has to be best for the business. It has to be best for the company before you do it. Not just because, if I do this, I don't have to pay tax. That's avoidance, and that's also wrong. So people always thought that tax avoidance is okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay.
So I think like when it comes to Malaysia tax, in your opinion, because I think you're one of the biggest one in Malaysia, how many percentage of people you think is paying tax properly?
Wow. Wow, that's a tough question. Paying tax properly as in 100% honest lah. Paying like 100% without failing to not disclose. Can I say less than 10%?
Really?
Seriously.
Really?
I must be very honest lah.
I am the 10%.
If you say 100% honest, I'm talking about 100% honest.
Okay.
I declare everything, without hiding anything. Seriously, less than 10%.
Where do you think the 90% falls at if there was a breakdown? Is
Now,
it maybe
of
another
course-
40% is
yeah,
like they
of
don't
course I would
know,
say-
right? I'm sure there are some that don't know. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Because I fall into that category during my first 1 year. There are a lot of things I really don't know.
True,
And
true.
I had to pay back after that because
True.
when I found out, then I scared. Because I knew that I want to do this business properly. So then I went and like just asked and say, oh, can I? Because I forgot to, I didn't pay. So I didn't pay properly. Yeah. Then the second year I went and paid back.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
Now,
I didn't know. Yeah.
Of course, I must agree there will be a lot of people who do not know how to pay tax properly. Not knowing what is deductible, what is not deductible, what can I claim for relief, what I cannot claim. Yes, I agree there will be this group of people, but businessmen, I would say business owners,
business
I'll talk
owners.
about business owners. Yeah, I would say more than half of them would try to find ways on how to avoid paying tax. Yeah, more than 50%.
And again, it comes back to what we talked about earlier, is the mindset of why should I pay the government my hard-earned money, right? So what's your personal take on that?
Now, as a tax professional, as a tax agent, obviously I wouldn't agree to this lah. I cannot say that this is your hard-earned money, hence you do not want to pay to the government. But because if everyone thinks so,
The government, bye-bye law.
the government would have no revenue,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the government would not have enough funds to run the country and develop things for our nation, for our child, our grandchild.
Yeah.
So we need money, for the government. But again, I must also understand from their shoes, why would they have that kind of mindset? Because they always say that, what is the government really doing with the money? I can't see what the government is doing. So I think in the end, it's all about transparency. It's not about, if the government really shows now all this money has been allocated to this, to develop this and that. If everything is transparent and we don't buy overpriced stuff, every year when we heard, our countries, what do you call that? The auditor, the national auditor, he always says that, we are buying something that's overpriced, something that is way more expensive than what the market price is, If those things are not happening, then I believe the citizens are more than happy to pay tax.
Yeah. And I think I want to switch gear a little bit. I want to talk about recent years. There are a lot of new implementation, right? Whether it's e-invoicing, and then one of the recent news we're talking about influencers, even sponsored item are taxable, right? I saw on threads, a lot of, but of course now died down a little bit already lah. That time was very hit. What's your take on that? Like sponsored gift, sponsored trip, is it really taxable? And how does that process look like? To all my influencer friends, you don't want to miss this. We are hearing from Zen Chow.
Okay. Now, I don't know whether you're aware that there is a guideline issued recently by the Inland Revenue Board, talking about the taxation of an influencer. That they actually come up with a guideline just to so-called educate the influencers about what's your tax responsibility. So in the guideline, it says very clearly, if you receive money, whatever rewards in monetary form, obviously that is your income and you have to declare tax. So that is simple. But a lot of people cannot understand this, when they say, hey, I'm not receiving money, I'm not taking anything in monetary form. I'm taking, like say, a voucher, I'm taking a trip or some of your products, Is this still my income? Now, from the tax point of view, from the tax perspective, it is. It is. Anything that is given to you because you earn it, and if this thing has value, right, has a market value, that is your income. But then the question is, how do I declare this? I'm not getting money, I'm just getting products, I'm getting vouchers, I'm getting a trip. You have to look at the market value. That is how you look at it. You have to look at the market value of this product, of this voucher, of this trip, and that has to go into your income when you declare your income for income tax purposes. And I must honestly say that's why a lot of people actually did not do this. They did not do this. But let me tell you what, you can't avoid this anymore, because just now you mentioned about e-invoicing. When e-invoice comes into play, there is this thing called self-billed e-invoice, where if this whatever sponsor or company, right, that's giving you products, they may issue a self-billed e-invoice and your name will be disclosed, whatever that you're getting is being disclosed, and the value of the product is being disclosed to the Inland Revenue Board, and they will know that you are actually earning this.
Yeah, so clients, if you're watching this, we cannot do butter anymore. No, yeah, I think, but I wanna talk a little bit about E-Invoice, because it's actually officially launched it I think last year.
It was in 2024
End
August.
of the year, right?
No,
Yeah,
the
August,
first batch
right?
was August 2024. That was the
Yeah.
very, very first batch for the biggest group of companies.
Yeah. So what is the current situation right now in Malaysia in terms of adoption of E-Invoice?
Okay.
I know my company has already, but we actually only adopted it last year.
Okay. Now, like I was saying, E-Invoice has started since 2024 August. That was the first phase. Then we have phase 2, in 2025 January. Phase 3, in 2025 July.
Yeah.
Then phase 4 is actually our last phase, which is early this year, 1st of January 2026. Now that's phase 4. So, I would say all the 4 phases have started, and people have started adopting to E-Invoice. But I must still say that there's still a lot of people that are very confused with how to handle E-Invoice. Even up to today, after, right now it's April, then it's like 2 years, almost 2 years. Yeah, almost one year plus right, since the E-Invoice kick-started, right? But there's still people asking me questions about, hey, how do I issue E-Invoice when it comes to this scenario? What kind of E-Invoice should I issue? People are still getting very confused because E-Invoice, even though it's not complicated, but there are still a lot of rules, in E-Invoice itself that, that could make people confused.
Can you share with our audience in the most simple manner, why does the government implement E-Invoice, and how does it actually benefit us, whether a business owner or individual?
Now, E-Invoice is to create transparency. Now, many people thought that, hey, when E-Invoice is being implemented, would it make me pay more tax? The answer is yes or no. Yes and no. Why do I say yes and no? Because if you have been declaring all your income correctly, being very transparent, well, E-Invoice will not give you any impact. I mean, you wouldn't have to pay more tax. But if you have been hiding all your income, say you sell something but you do not want to issue invoice,
You take cash.
right? And you say I don't want to issue any invoice, but now when E-Invoice is being implemented, you have to declare it, in invoice. So then all this income will come up to the surface, and you realize you find yourself paying more tax. I mean, you will do that. So E-Invoice is all about creating transparency, because the government wants to monitor what's really happening. Because we always say that the shadow economy in Malaysia is very huge,
What does that mean, shadow economy?
Means the underground economy. Underground economy where,
Not the real one lah.
where people do business, there are a lot of buy and sell transactions, but off the record, everything off the record. There's no invoice, there's no receipt, but payment is, coming in and out lah. So that is too huge. So the government says we need to implement E-Invoice so that everything is transparent, because E-Invoice, is supposed to be your proof of income and proof of expense. So when you do business with someone, you want to get an E-Invoice, but that person has to issue you an E-Invoice, and that person cannot hide this income anymore. He has to give you an E-Invoice because you want to have the proof of expense.
Yeah.
So that is why E-Invoice is being implemented.
Yeah, I just have something top of the mind, right? So what happens to our hawker store, uncle, auntie?
Okay, good news is not everyone needs to implement E-Invoice. Obviously, I mean, when E-Invoice was first introduced, the government says everyone needs to do E-Invoicing. But, when it comes to now, at this stage, there is an exemption threshold. The exemption threshold is at 1 million ringgit. So which means if you are a small, 1 million ringgit per year. Sales or revenue per year. So if you are a small business owner,
Below
like what
1
you were
million.
saying, the hawker stores, most of the time, I would not say all. I mean, obviously, there are some hawker stores that actually make more than 1 million a year.
Of course.
Right. But most of them, if you don't make more than 1 million a year, as in your revenue, your sales is not more than 1 million a year, then you're totally exempted. You don't have to even do e-invoicing.
So I want to flip it a bit, because you also mentioned just now about shadow economy, right? What's your take on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and declaring dividend and income and paying taxes? I just it's not really here, but I just really want to pick on your brain a little bit.
Okay. Well, of course, there's definitely a link. There's definitely a linkage between shadow economy and all this cryptocurrency. Reason is because when I earn money, and I'm hiding it, because it's in the shadow economy, right? I can't put my money into, a formal financial institution. I cannot put it into the bank, right? So that's where, they start putting it into cryptocurrency, all this crypto wallet where people will not know what
not traceable,
yeah, it's not traceable. So there's definitely a linkage over here. Yeah. But, well, let's just say, okay, if one day, you got discovered by the government, by the Indian Revenue Board,
Again,
that you
have to
actually
pay
have
back
all
lor.
this cryptocurrency with you in some of your wallet, you still have to explain, how do I have all this? How do I get money to buy all this cryptocurrency? And not forgetting, even if you say, oh, I'm trading cryptocurrency, hence I'm earning, that's also taxable.
Yeah.
Trading cryptocurrency is also taxable. So you cannot run away, by saying that this is all in the crypto world, therefore I don't declare my tax. No.
Yeah, I think like in short, what I'm hearing is that you can choose to, be creative, evade, avoid, hide, whatever word you want to use. The price to pay is really when that day comes.
Yep.
Transparency is lifted out, the curtains is lifted out. The big question is you cannot run away, and are you able to take that
True.
lump sum, like what you mentioned just now, 7 million, 4 million, and you had to pay.
Yep.
What if they cannot afford to pay by then? What will happen legally?
Now, of course, the Indian Revenue Board always offer installment plan to you. Yes, the good news is, if you say, oh, I cannot pay, don't worry, we'll go for installment plan. Yes, they'll offer you they'll offer you installment plan, and you can start paying by installment. But even now, let's just say they give you installment plan, and you still don't pay your installment on time. Of course, the worst case scenario is that you'll be arrested and you'll be put to jail. Yes.
Really?
Yes, you can be put to jail for not paying tax. So, yeah, but of course, usually, I always say this, government put you into jail, they have to spend more money, right? They have to pay for your food and accommodation. I'll call it accommodation lah. Okay? Yeah, but if you can pay off, then, you can pay by installment. But if you really cannot, then yes, you can be put to jail.
Yeah, and I think that's why these are the conversations that we don't normally want to talk about. That's why I started the podcast by saying, everybody knows they have to pay tax.
Yep.
But people don't really talk about it. We talk about the outfit we wear. We talk about, the coffee place that is nice. But we don't, it's not a yum cha conversation like, hey, how's your tax? And then I also think one thing about tax is like, I think in maybe Chinese era, right? Chinese community, it's like a taboo like that. Because then I know how much you make. Right? Because you tell me how much tax you paid, I back calculate, I already know how much you make.
True.
But with that said, I think I want to just hop on a little bit as we end, right? I want to talk a bit about E-Invoicing, right?
Okay.
Really for our audiences today. Because I feel like this year probably is still a little bit like relaxed, right? Still letting the businesses, whether they're SMEs or medium-sized MNCs, to really hop onto it. I just want to pick on your brain a bit. What risks do they face if they really lenga like that? Wait until last minute only they're like, oh, Juju.com, I haven't put it. What do you think is the risk that these companies will face?
Okay, now just like you did mention about relaxation period. Yes, indeed, for every phase of this e-invoice implementation, we are given a relaxation period, 6-month relaxation period, except for the last phase, this phase 4, where you have 1 year relaxation period for the whole year 2026. Now, but there's one big misconception, one big misunderstanding by a lot of taxpayers about relaxation period. They thought during relaxation period, I don't have to do anything for invoicing. Not true, totally not true. Because during relaxation period, what you can do is you do not have to issue e-invoice for every transaction. You can just issue your normal invoice, normal receipt, and you just have to do one consolidated invoice every month. And that consolidated invoice can be very simple. You can put any description. So that's what we mean by relaxation. Every month, at least you need to do one consolidated invoice. Okay. Now, but if you don't do that, you're doing relaxation. That's still wrong. That's still wrong. Okay. Now, but what is more important is that relaxation period will end. Yeah, like I was saying, phase 4, that started 1st January this year. Relaxation period will end of this year, 31st December 2026. So by then, from 1st January 2027 onwards, you have to fully comply with e-invoicing. So you ask, what if I don't? What if I don't?
Yeah.
Now, if you look into the law, you look into the Income Tax Act that governs e-invoicing, minimum penalty is only 200 ringgit. But think about it, 200 is for per transaction.
What?
Every transaction.
Per transaction? GG law for us.
So I always make use a very simple example. Let's just say you only have 100 transactions a month lah. 100 only, not a lot.
More than that,
okay.
I pay my influencer like Wow, I got 300-400 transactions every 2 weeks.
If the government comes to you and say, okay lah, since it's your first time, doing something wrong, right, first offense, okay lah, 200 lah, give you 200 minimum. Multiplied it by the number of transactions. If you have 100 transactions, that's 20,000.
300?
300 would be
180K lah.
So that's why I always say that yes, during this relaxation period, it's the time for you to learn how do you do things properly, and just make sure that you understand the rules, all the rules about e-invoicing, and make sure when the relaxation period has ended, you fully comply with e-invoicing.
Yeah. So for SMEs that are still confused, maybe as we wrap this podcast up, what are the first 3 practical steps they can take to apply for e-invoice? Just simple one.
Okay.
Assuming
of course,
someone watching this today, they're like, I know I need to do e-invoice, but I don't know where to start. And I'm probably making like less than 5 million revenue per year. What do you think they should?
The first thing is you have to learn. You have to learn about e-invoicing. Where to learn? Go to TaxPod. Go to my online tax platform, TaxPod. I mean, honestly, I'm not just really promoting that, but you really need to learn, whether it's from TaxPod or any other channels. You got to learn. You can go to workshops, seminars, webinars, to learn. You need to know the concept. Okay, all right. Of course, the second thing is I would suggest if you can afford, have a proper software. Because if you have a proper software, an accounting software that supports e-invoicing, it's going to help you very much. Yeah, it is going to help you do things easier, and you don't have to spend so much time to issue e-invoice. Yeah, and of course, the last thing is that always ask, whenever you do not know, feel free to ask your consultant if you have one.
Don't live in the dark, right?
Yes, or go to the Inland Revenue Board. They are there to support you. Seriously, they are there to support you. Always ask if you're unsure, what to do, because you do not want to make a mistake. If you make a mistake and if you didn't ask earlier, you'll be penalized.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Zen. I think before we wrap up, I want you to maybe answer this question to everybody that's watching this. If you want to boss up, you need to.
If you want to boss up, you need to be tax savvy.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Zen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed this episode. I feel like as much as I'm interviewing you, I'm also reflecting did we do the right thing? Yep. So everybody, go ahead, give Zen Chow a follow. Go and find out TaxPod, YYC group, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.